This episode is sponsored by Turn Gymnastics Apparel, the brand dedicated solely to the sport of men's gymnastics. Choose Turn this season to outfit your team with industry-leading design concepts and elevated options for elite performance. Get the design process started today. Visit turn-gymnastics.com to discover the latest possibilities. Turn. Never done perfecting. Thank you, Turn, for supporting the Sam Oldham podcast. Supporting Turn helps us bring you new content every single week from the world of gymnastics. I hope you enjoy this episode of the Sam Oldham podcast. In the final gymnastics events of the Paris 2024 Olympic Games, 6 men's gold medals and 4 women's were awarded to the best specialists in the sport. Carlos Yulo made history, winning 2 titles for the Philippines. Rhys McCleneghan performed one of the best pommel horse routines in arguably the greatest final on that event of all time. The Chinese dominated on the still rings, and Zou Jingyuan proved to be the most dominant gymnast across the whole of gymnastics, running away with the parallel bars title. High bar became a game of who can stay on, with the 17-year-old Angel Barajas winning silver for Colombia. In this episode, I'm joined by Daniel Keatings, the world silver all-around medalist, 2008 Beijing Olympian, and this is our story. Dan, thanks for joining us, mate. It's really good to see you. Just to start off with, what's been your experience of the Games this time around, Dan? I can't believe it's, 16 years since you competed in Beijing. I also can't believe that Becky Downey's also competing at an Olympic Games 16 years later after Beijing. That's just mind-boggling. So what's it been like, mate, watching it?
It's been awesome. I mean, the level of gymnastics has been crazy. And I fell in love with it. Like, I've been watching every single day. Like, I've been night shift, but getting up early to watch it. And it's just been awesome watching it. And obviously with the GB guys and girls who can medal, like, they've got a potential medal in most finals. It's amazing just to see that as well. Like, you're pumped for every single day.
Has that been different, Dan, even to Tokyo just 3 years ago? Has it been a different experience this time?
Tokyo was a weird one because it was, like, after lockdown. I weren't quite sure what to expect in Tokyo. And obviously there weren't really any crowd. I didn't feel like there was as much hype around Tokyo. Whereas this time, the build-up to this, you could see everyone doing well in Worlds and Euros and things like that. So I was a bit more excited for this one, I think.
Remind me again as well, Dan, when you officially retired. Was it?
2016.
So kind of at the end of... So you're still kind of in the mix of the next cycle. Do you know what I mean? I know you're retired, but, you know, you're still doing gymnastics in that year of 2016 and the Olympic Games. So you're kind of... I imagine your emotions and your feelings are still very much kind of connected to what's going on in that cycle. There's still athletes that you competed with and were teammates with doing gymnastics. So it's probably the first time it's felt like a clean break. That's how I've felt. Yeah,
definitely. Like I say, especially with Jake. Jake was kind of a little kid when I was training in Huntingdon. So it's the people I was training with, even Joe was like quite a few years younger than me. So he was coming up through the ranks when I was kind of finishing. So it's great to see them come through, but I don't really have that kind of bond and connection that I had with the guys that were in Tokyo, Rio, apart from obviously Max. But yeah, it was great to see that. And obviously I don't really know them on a personal level too well.
It's those feelings as well, mate, isn't it? Like, I think there's no way you probably... Well, you might disagree. There's no way you could have competed this time, whereas you could have potentially hung on and trained and competed in Tokyo, right? But this time, I think in your head, for me, I'm like, there's no way I could have been there. So, like, I really am, like, done, and I'm moved on and I'm retired. So I think that helps with, like, your experience of watching it, like, purely as a fan. It's interesting, Dan, because it's provoked quite a lot of feelings within me the last couple of weeks, the Olympic Games, which has kind of taken me by surprise a little bit. And I think one thing I always get asked around the time of the Olympic Games is, oh, you went to the Olympics? Someone might see my tattoo, or they'll say, oh, you went to the Olympic Games? Like, how did you do? And I'll say, oh, yeah, I went to London, I got bronze medal. And I say, oh, did you go to any more? And then you fall into that. It's a difficult, like, how you navigate that conversation is interesting. And I had this chat with Dan Purvis, who came on Friday too, like, off the podcast. It's really hard to have that conversation without feeling like you're making excuses. And, do you know, it's really difficult, isn't it? And then you find yourself going into but I appealed the decision, I should have been there. And then you just end up thinking, oh, God, it's just difficult, isn't it? How do you handle that? And do you get the same thing?
100%. Okay. Obviously, I went to Beijing, then missed out on 2012, like, loads of injuries and whatnot. And again, like you say, it's like I'm trying not to make too much excuses. But the good thing with Rio was that I went and commentated. So then I can always kind of bring it back and say, but then I went to Rio and commentated. So obviously I didn't compete, but I've still went there, commentated and whatnot, and I kind of end it on that kind of note with them, which was good, and obviously completely different experience as well.
How was your experience commentating in Rio, Dan? Were you commentating on the actual gymnastics? Were you the middleman, and they come back to the central studio and they chat to you a bit like Beth's been doing? What was your role? It's
kind of like, what Craig was doing this time around. It's kind of like that. So Matt Baker is the main guy. Me and Chris were kind of doing the men's and girls, like alternating between each other.
Okay. Right, and how did you find that? Did you feel under pressure? Did you at times get asked to commentate on women's gymnastics?
Yeah.
How did you feel about that? Did you feel under pressure?
A little bit, because I'm so far away from knowing anything about women's gymnastics. Yeah. So I'd kind of said to Chris, look, you take the main lead on the women's side, I'll do the men's, and we'll keep it that way.
Yeah. What did you watch this time? Who did you go with, mate? Did you watch BBC or did you go with Discovery Plus and listen to the sweet tones of Christian Thomas?
So I kind of switched it up. Sometimes I watched BBC, but then because the way it worked, it was hard to follow the British guys and girls round. So then I'd switch to Discovery Plus to then see, because you could choose different apparatus.
So you could just follow, you could watch every routine, couldn't you? Follow him around. And how do you think Christian did? I thought he was brilliant.
I thought it was awesome.
I've heard nothing but really positive feedback.
Yeah.
For me, the big thing was the difference in just the way I was listening to the BBC and felt stressed. And then I was listening to Chris and I was nice and calm.
Yeah.
And just enjoying the experience and watching the routines. It was really, that energy level, and I guess the way I would probably say Christian was catering more towards gymnastics people and the gymnastics community and people that maybe had a bit of base knowledge watching gymnastics, and then the BBC was more just the average person knows nothing about gymnastics, trying to get them in and engaged, and it was
100%
loud.
Yeah. So I've got a few mates who watched the gymnastics this time around, and they loved the BBC. They were saying, "Oh, it's so good, so knowledgeable and whatnot." So from people who ain't a gymnast, that was really good for them. But then as a gymnast, it's almost dumbed down a little bit. But that was the hard thing about commentating. You've got to try and cater for people who don't know anything about gymnastics and then people who do know a little bit about gymnastics. Whereas Chris, as a gymnast, you could listen to him, you know exactly what he's going on about. It's a bit more technical as well.
Yeah.
And I loved that side of things as well.
Yeah. What was your approach, Dan? Did you go with, right, I'm going to kind of dial this down and think about the audience on the other side of the TV? Or I'm just going to talk about what I see from a technical point of view? What did you go for?
I tried to put a little bit of kind of technical stuff in there, but not too much, because obviously as gymnasts, we'll speak move after move after move, and the audience would be or anyone watching wouldn't have a clue what we're on about. So I'd maybe say one or two moves by the names and then try and then just say the swing to handstand or somersault or something like that.
Did you have any prep beforehand? What kind of prep did you get? Did you have anybody giving you any research or analysis? We had a lady come on called Kensley who's got her social media channel, which is called Neutral Deductions, and she specifically follows men's gymnastics, and she went out as an analyst and a researcher, so her job was to give all the stats and figures to the people like you that would have been commentating on the gymnastics. Okay. So did you have any of that, or was it pure, and did anybody say, right, Dan, just remember people listening at home don't know much about, was there any of that?
So I was always kind of well clued up on gymnastics. I don't know if I was addicted to it. So especially on the men's side, I knew everyone who was going to do well. I knew even the kind of the newcomers from coming through. I knew what special moves they were doing and all these different routines. So from that side of things, I was good on the men's side, but then the women's side was a lot harder. We had to go off ourselves and create our own prep.
Okay. Were you asked to do that?
Yes.
Right.
More so just so if there's stuff, say a score hasn't come up for a while, we can fill with, I don't know, this person won a medal 3 years ago, or the first for a country or his country or whatever, things like that. I remember Beth being really good at it, so she just had pages and pages of notes, which was really handy as well. Yeah.
And it's literally just go into your notes, right, and you've got that written down. You might have the gymnast name, and then you've got all these facts and stuff written down about them.
Yeah, it was so say for example, floor and pommel is on the next day. That night, I'd prep for floor and pommel, so I'd have all these facts that I'd kind of do the main guys, the ones who are expected to medal, and then maybe one or two who have an outside chance. So then you could fill with them kind of stats.
When you watched the gymnastics, Dan, which apparatus do you feel have moved on the most? And which apparatus do you feel like the best gymnasts of your time are still competitive with the best gymnasts of today?
I feel like Pommel's isn't so different.
I was watching Pommel thinking Dan Keatings' Pommel routine from Glasgow 2014 is competitive with all of these guys.
Yeah, it hasn't. It's obviously the code's a little bit different, and you get deducted more, don't you? I think you need a more extended circle and things like that. But in terms of the difficulty, I feel, yeah, like you say, my routine from 2014 would still probably do pretty well in this era. P-bars is crazy. Like I say, like my P-bars was pretty good, but like look at Joe, his P-bars is amazing, and then there's still guys scoring 5 tenths or a mark higher than him, and it's like that had to be like a 17 in our code.
Yeah,
it's like what is going on here? Like it's amazing.
Yeah, and then I think potentially floor has improved a lot.
Yeah, floor's massive.
No one really has a weak tumble.
No.
Even the last weak tumble standing, which is normally a double twist on the side, is now a triple twist or a double on the side. So I think floor's probably.
I suppose vault as well. Everyone does a triple twist now.
Yeah, I think it was incredible. I don't know what the stats would be, but that might be the first ever vault final where there was no vault lower than a 5.6.
Really?
Yeah. I wouldn't know that. I haven't looked into it or done any research. Be interested if anybody listening knows whether or not that's accurate. But everybody had a 5.6 or above. So a Dragulescu, a triple twist, a double pike suit, double pike Yuchenko, in the final. And then there were 2 6 vaults, which is pretty incredible. When you think about what vaults could make a final 15 years ago.
Yeah, you could
potentially have a double twist in a final, right?
Yeah.
Yuchenko double twist and a Kaz 2.5.
Yeah, if you could stick a double twist and then do a 2.5, you're probably going to be coming in 8th or 7th to get into a final, whereas you'd have no chance now.
I think what was interesting after qualification that I heard, there was only about 20 people trying to make the vault final. So statistically speaking, you had like almost what would that be percentages wise? You had a pretty high chance. It's not 1 in 2 chance, but it was not far off of making the final. Those guys are the best, but
do you reckon that's maybe because the level's so high? Like you say, you have to do 2 massive vaults now, and a lot of people probably can't do that. So maybe
people off, they just put them off. Maybe focus on other things. Yeah, maybe that's what it is. But if you were thinking about what's my best route to an Olympic medal?
Yeah,
that's probably the one, right? Because I'm sure the numbers on all the other apparatus must be, I don't know how many men were competing, but got to be up to 30, 40, 50 on every other apparatus. So, I thought that was interesting for me from the qualification. What were your expectations going into the finals then, Dan, from already having watched the qualifications, the team, the all-around? What did you expect ahead of the finals?
I was really excited for Jake. So usually he's kind of a bit bouncy on floor, bouncing around, but he seemed to pull it together in the Olympics. And it's already a high start value. It was just about cleaning up his landing, so I was excited for that. And obviously then vault, and then obviously Harry as well. Do you know who he reminds me of? Dennis Ablayazin, is that how you say his name?
Yeah.
It's the exact same. Floor, rings, and vault are just so high. It's unbelievable. He reminds me a bit of that.
Yeah.
But we're so strong on floor now as well, aren't we? With Luke.
Really strong on floor. Yeah, I've tried to wonder what that is. I don't know where that maybe comes from. Maybe just naturally the natural build of European athletes maybe caters towards that.
Yeah, a bit bigger, a bit stronger, more powerful,
a bit taller, maybe a little bit more fast twitched.
Yeah.
But we seem to be very, very strong on floor and very, very strong on vault. It's interesting, isn't it, how it moves around, what apparatus we're strong on. I feel like we're stronger on more apparatus now.
Oh, yeah, because, really, we were really strong on Pommel, weren't we? And I don't know, maybe it's because we were so strong on Pommel, it's right now, let's start focusing on our weaknesses, everything else. But so you kind of take your eye off Pommel a little bit. It might be something like that. And then
I don't think, look, we're still very strong on Pommel, aren't we? I think we were just very lucky to have had 3 of the best Pommel workers in the world competing for a period of 10 years. High bar is tough for a lot of people. You can't really come close to the Japanese on high bar.
Yeah.
But that seems to have been the big weakness, really, when you're looking at the scores. With that potentially down at 3.13s in the team final.
Yeah, I think that's what probably that was our lowest scoring piece. Was it 40 or something like that we got?
And I have to say that's the lowest scoring piece for most teams.
Yeah,
So
it
I think
is,
global,
yeah.
and you look at the high bar final, right? It was just an absolute shit show. it was one of those finals where it's just the finals progressively. That last day was because even P-bars, there was a lot of big scores, big athletes messing up, wasn't there?
Yeah, there was, and even like beam. I know beam. A lot of people fall off beam as well, but beam people were falling off. Like everyone seemed to be struggling on that last day. I don't know if it's because it was split into 3 days. Wasn't it?
It was, and I don't know because you could, and we'll get onto high bar a little bit later, but you can see, you can hear how perplexed Christian was at how many guys were falling on their dismount. He was like, I really have no explanation. Like I was like, what's going on? I was half watching it and working. And they were just running forwards, and I was like, me being like somebody that's competed in high bar finals, you're putting it on your feet, and if you're stepping anywhere, you're stepping back. Like,
yeah, 100%.
So like, I don't know whether it's that maybe people were feeling a bit leggy and tired, and that split over 3 days. But maybe that situation you can have on occasion at Pommel where you're like, well, one guy falls, and then you're like, I just got to stay on. Yeah. And just don't make a mistake, and then that dismount goes wrong. Yeah. Maybe it's like, just got to put it on my feet, and they're opening out a bit early, a bit eager, do you know what I mean? And like not thinking so much about the technique of the dismount and when they're timing and when they're kicking and thinking, more just be on your feet, and I've got a medal. So that almost like celebrating too early, which is really hard to have the discipline. Who was it that said that? Maybe it was Beth Tweddle. The discipline to stay in the moment and not get ahead of yourself is a real skill, isn't it? Like that as a skill.
100%. Like you say, they've seen so many people fall before them. They've probably got to the dismount and relaxed and thought, I've done it. Mm-hmm. And then they've just either kicked early. I think, was it Bo Haing? You can see when it was slow motion, he's open out looking probably for a stick to try and get a gold. Because he probably should have won a couple of golds this Olympics. And he's probably thought, right, this is my last chance, let's stick it. And
Yeah, crazy, mate. So let's start with floor then. That floor final, let's talk about Jake's routine. So, in the past, traditionally maybe struggled with the consistency, particularly with the landings, always had that difficulty. But it did seem that just from the get-go, he's just been solid on the floor.
I think, qualifications, team, all round, it was all 14.9s, weren't it?
Pretty much the same score, right? So incredibly consistent with a massive routine.
Yeah.
Always kind of baffles me, the guys finishing on 3.5s and sticking them.
I know.
I find it hard to get my head around that.
It doesn't make sense,
It's
really,
a blind landing,
Yeah.
right? Like, it's so hard for, you often see somebody doing whether it's a 2.5, but a 3.5, like landing and then taking that step over to one side. So to come out and actually try and stick it, it's pretty mind-boggling when you think about, like, I used to struggle to get a triple twist round. So to be finishing on a 3.5 is, like, pretty impressive. But yeah, that routine was great. After he did the routine, what were you thinking? Did you think, okay, good shot at a medal here? It was a little jumpy, right?
Yeah, because it was, I don't know if that's just nerves, because it was just like a little jump or step on
almost
each
like
landing.
standing up very quickly and losing your balance a little bit.
Yeah.
Those type of landings, trying to stay in the floor.
Yeah, I think he's very kind of fast twitch though, isn't he? And I think that kind of comes with being fast twitch. It's harder to kind of just control them landings.
Yeah, trying to control that's very, very hard. What about Artem then, the Israeli gymnast? It's really interesting how, for me, seeing on Twitter afterwards just like the volume of abuse he was getting, which is, I just don't understand how people can't compartmentalise that he's an athlete and he's just doing a performance from whatever's going on geopolitically in the world. Like, it's pretty crazy, like, but I just, you have to separate those two things.
Yeah, you have to.
But again, a great routine. Like, I love his double straight.
Yeah, so do I. Like his routine, everything's just so like nice and floaty, almost like it looks really easy,
effortless.
Yeah. I love watching his routine.
It's a really interesting routine. It's beautiful. Very consistent with it as well, isn't he?
Yeah.
With that routine. And then the big thing for me was Luke's score. What was your initial reaction?
Right. So to start with, I thought he's probably beat Jake, and I didn't think it was enough for first, but I thought he might even pip second. And I was like, what's happened here? And then I thought, maybe it's to do with that landing. I'm not too sure on what the rules are and stuff now, and I'm pretty sure I heard someone say you might not get credited something if you land below 90 degrees or something like that. So straight away I was like, it's got to be that. What did he do? Was it a double front or double pike or something? So
my initial reaction was this. So I watched it and I thought, I think they might give it him. And I did also think that's a low landing. So that was the only place where I was like, they're either going to give him a 15-1 because I knew he had a 6.5 and he's just beat him for gold, or he's going to sneak in there at like a 14-9 or something, or just miss out, just miss out, and it'll be a bit harsh with like the low landing. When I see the score and the start value, I knew his start value was a 6.5. I thought they've not give his wide arm. I thought, okay, it's 2/10 down, so they've given a press to handstand.
Yeah.
But it's not been wide enough in his wide arm. Because I didn't know that technical rule for being too low, which is bad because I am a national qualified judge. Yeah. I've never used that qualification, but I didn't know that was a rule.
Yeah.
And then I heard Christian explain that rule, and I went, okay, right. There is a technical reason he didn't get that, because I was getting messages from people going, what's that score? I don't get that score. So I was like, what? That's crazy. I don't understand it. My issue then becomes, okay, that is a technical rule, so I get it. But there is no way Carlos Yulo did a double pike front out of that combination.
Yeah.
Straight away, again, my initial reaction to seeing his routine was, that's a double tuck.
Yeah, because his second somersault was
it's completely bent legs, like 90 degrees.
Yeah.
So if you're gonna be tough on Luke like that, you've got to keep it consistent.
Yeah.
You can't, and that for me was my reaction. I was like, what? I don't get that. That's just not consistent. That makes no sense to me.
What's the Spanish lad's name?
Zapata.
Did he get given his double?
No.
Yeah, so I thought his was probably straighter legged than.
Which is mad, right? So then where does your brain go to then? Like, I'm thinking, well, what is that? And why has there not been somebody from the head judging table come to check on that? Because that's so clear and obvious to anybody that's got a gymnastics brain spotted that straight away. Yeah. Like, both of those things. So you will have spotted him bending his legs on the double front, and you will have spotted Luke's low landing. Yeah. And you can, like, take that if it's the same. But, for me, very confusing. It makes me question, okay, is it because it's a country that's never won an Olympic gold medal before? Yeah. And they're thinking, right, great. I know how the Olympic Games works with TV advertisement and stuff. We can get all these viewers in the Philippines, right? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
That does, I'm not sure about, it doesn't sit that well with me. Now, I can understand if they have just given him a deduction for 3/10 for bending his legs and said, all right, we checked it, it's not bent enough to not count it. But again, you had an equal, you had Zapata doing the same thing and they didn't give it. So that I think will definitely infuriate the people at Leeds Gymnastics. Just because it's not fair, do you know what I mean? And the justification of that. The issue I think you have is, like, now Luke's age at 20, you will go, okay, well, I can accept that because I'm 20 and I'm going to go to more competitions and Olympic Games. But as me and you know, that doesn't always happen, does it? So that's when, in hindsight, that becomes a frustration. But so that was, I think, for me. But that apart, Carlos Yulo's gymnastics is incredible, isn't it? Like,
you can't take anything away from his gymnastics or his routine, apart from that little bent leg.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
It was amazing. Like, and then sticking the 3.5 as well. Like, if you stick your last tumble, that's what's left in the judge's mind. You're gonna get a high score.
It was the best routine. Look, it was the best all-around routine. But to me, it doesn't matter.
No,
the rules are do you know what I mean? You've got to keep it across the board. Otherwise, you give both.
Well, like you say, Luke's routine was great as well, wasn't it? So
you give both. But that was a surprise for me. Okay, let's move on to Pommels then, in the area where I'm most interested in your analysis. Going into the Pommel final, what was your 1-2-3 prediction? What did you think was going to happen?
I thought it was a straight out, just kind of shootout between Max and Rhys.
Okay.
Obviously, I'm good friends with Luke, and he'd sent me a few kind of halves and stuff before the Olympics, like just saying, like, look at this, what do you think of this? And there was 2/10 deduction in each half, like stuff like that. Obviously, he's worked really hard on changing his circle over the last few years, and Rhys's routine was probably one of the best routines I've ever seen. There was nothing to deduct, plus the difficulty is crazy as well. It was unreal. Yeah. So
you were thinking, right, Rhys and Max shoot out for gold, and then who did you think might sneak in and take the bronze?
It was a tough one. I didn't expect what's the Kazakhstan?
Kurbanov.
Didn't expect that.
See, we sat down, didn't we, before, and I said, okay, I'm gonna go him first.
Yeah.
Kurbanov first, Rhys second, Max third.
Yeah.
Only because we had done an episode where I'd done some research on the World Cup circuit, and this guy was just hitting 15.4, 15.5, like every competition.
Yeah.
And when I watched his routine and the construction of all those travels, there's not a lot of built-in deductions here.
Yeah.
It doesn't skew. He's got great shape. It's very consistent. There's not too much risk. He's not doing a triple Russian on one handle or a Buznari or even a sheer handstand, which is another area where you're going to take some risk, right, on pommels. So I felt like potentially he might do it. And I had felt that, right, Rhys doesn't have an Olympic medal. So that might play a factor, and he might not go for his full difficulty depending on how the competition plays out.
Yeah.
Because they might think, right, let's just get a medal because we don't have one already and we miss another one. It's a long 4 years.
Yeah.
And then equally, I felt like, well, Max has got 6. So he might just think, let's just get a medal. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Finish it off, get a medal. Or on the flip side of that, let's just go for it because I've already got 6 medals. So, they were kind of like my expectations going in. What did you think of the guy from Kazakhstan's routine?
First thoughts, so I didn't expect his start score to be that high. I don't know why. Just looking at the routine, it was because there's no flares, there's no sheer handstand, no
quick,
Buznari.
It's so quick, that routine.
I was like, when the score came up, I was like, whoa. I was like, where's that coming from? I'm thinking, I text Purvis, like, who's this guy? But then I've watched it back a few times and I'm like, no, that is good. I don't know, he's got really long arms, so he's really like high above the pommel, so there's no scuffs, there's no hitting it, so there's not really anywhere to deduct.
No, and you can't really deduct that sheer at the start because it doesn't have to be anywhere near handstand. It's a very clever construction, and a lot of those specialists that are of that build, and they're the taller, slimmer, more streamlined pommel workers are going for that style routine because it scores so well. But they, in qualification, they didn't score him that well.
Yeah.
So I thought, they're not prioritising that routine. So I was surprised with the score he came out with.
Yeah.
But yeah, they were kind of my thoughts for him and that routine. What did you think Max's mindset was going into that routine? Obviously, he was a bit of a mystery going into the games.
Yeah.
Because of the injury and not really knowing, and he'd done a few comps and had lots of falls and mistakes. I'd seen the video on Instagram of him, what I felt was probably a full routine in the holding camp, and everyone clapping like he'd gone through a full routine. So I thought, okay, he might be in shape. But I think to come out with what was probably the worst preparation he's ever had for a major championships, potentially, and certainly the Olympics, to have hit 3 routines is pretty amazing. Yeah, again, under pressure. And I do think if you're going to pick anybody to hit a routine under pressure, it's probably him. Yeah. Of any pommel worker, I would probably go with him to go through. Like, I'd love to know the numbers on hits that he's had in his career.
His percentage must be so
massive.
high.
You know, if you got someone that does like football analytics, but on gymnastics, great, wasn't it? What do you think his mindset was, Dan, like going into that routine?
I think he just wanted to go through. Whether, like, obviously he would have loved to have come out with a medal or even win, but I think the main thing is he's gone through. He stayed on 3 for 3 routines. You can't ask for any more than that, I don't think. And like I say, he had the split on his Wu.
Yeah.
If he kept his legs together, he's probably 15.5 as well.
Do you think, looking at it now in hindsight at that Pommel final, he was kind of having to rely on other people making mistakes? It was one of those finals. I mean, the scores wouldn't suggest so, would they? They'd suggest he was right up there. I think for me, like watching his routine, there were quite a few areas where I think you would take deductions. Yes. And I was surprised with his score.
Yeah, so was I, because of the sheer at the start as well.
Yeah, the pause on the sheer, the split on the Wu, the brush on the Russian on one handle, and then the pike after the Roth. Yeah. I just thought, I reckon it's going to be about 49, 49. So when the score came out, I thought, ooh. Yeah. Okay, he could still take a medal here, and that will put pressure on everybody else. Yeah. But I did feel like through the whole of the Olympics, he actually was swinging a lot straighter. Yeah. Me and Purvis talked about this.
Yeah, he was.
I think it was weird to see him with a wrist support on.
I thought that was the first thing I seen. I was like, "What's going on?" Because he never wore any, did he?
But because of his injury. But he was definitely swinging straighter. Yeah. Like I'd love to know whether that was a conscious effort to maybe try and compete and keep up with Max and the Kazakhstan gymnast. A lot of gymnasts were swinging with very straight shapes, weren't they? Yeah. But I think it's the straightest I've potentially ever seen him swing. Yeah. So yeah, that was kind of like my thoughts on Max's routine. And then with that score, I thought, I could do it. Could get a medal here. Yeah. And, it could be interesting. And then the Steven Nedorosik, the guy that's basically gone viral.
Yeah. He's so consistent.
So what's interesting is that he was getting so much heat when he got selected for not being consistent.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so loads of people were going, I don't know why they've picked him, because he's fell in both team finals he's been in before at the World Championships.
Oh, wow.
And he's been picked just for Pommel.
Yeah.
And my attitude towards that was kind of like, well, you have to go on like, who's ready at this moment in time?
Yeah.
You can't really... And I think that's probably, and maybe I spoke about this with Hamish and Dan Purvis, as probably from personal experience. Maybe you'd agree the same, right? Like, that's been held against me at times where you fell in at this moment in this pressured situation. It's like, yeah, but you can't use that against me forever. Like, today's a different day, and like,
I'm on
this
form
year's
now.
a different year. Like, surely you go with who's ready right now, or who's done the most routines at this moment in time. So I didn't feel that was a very strong argument, but I was surprised at his selection. But then he's just gone and hit, and he's incredible that he's properly gone viral.
Yeah, I love the picture where he's like sleeping.
He's got his eyes
like
shut with his glasses. Because people, I think if you were someone that doesn't follow gymnastics and you've just turned it on, especially if you're an American fan, and like, I imagine that the overflow of gymnastics fans we've had in men's gymnastics and just gymnastics as a whole, because of the spotlight that's been on Simone Biles, has been huge for the sport. I'd imagine this is probably the most watched Olympics in terms of gymnastics, probably since Nadia Comaneci, maybe back in... God, we're talking like the 70s, right? Yeah. So, like, incredible amount of people watching it, and then someone like him to come out as like this unsung hero. Yeah. Just the guy that just turns up just to do the pommel horse and like takes his glasses off, does his routine, and like finishes. Like, amazing because he was getting a lot of heat, like I said, for not being consistent. To be the guy that has to go up and do that pommel routine, because it was a 2-mark gap in the end. But you know this. You can have a fall and miss a skill, and that's 2 marks, right? Yeah. Like, it doesn't... You're still under that pressure, and you've got to hit. So, yeah, incredible, and his routine is beautiful.
Yeah, but if you fall as well, you tighten up, because you know you've got to stay on for the rest of it. Yeah.
What was it like, Dan? You must have been in Apparatus finals on pommels where you fell. At that point, are you trying to go through as clean as you possibly can, just in case everybody else falls? Or in your head, are you like, right, it's done. Just get through it and finish?
So, yeah, go through as clean as you possibly can, because I'm sure, I can't remember what year it was, if it was a Euros or Worlds. It might have been a Worlds. I think Lewis come third.
Worlds 2011, Tokyo.
Yeah. And he fell, but then everyone else did as well.
Everybody fell after him, yeah.
So from then I was like, you've got to just keep going. Like, because pommels, it's like the beam. It's so easy to fall off. And like you say, one small hand placement in the wrong place, your shoulders are gone and you're off. So I think you've got to even if you fall, you've got to really concentrate on just going through as clean as you can, and getting up.
Yeah. And then let's talk about Rhys's routine then, mate. I agree. Potentially, you could argue Zhang Hongtao, Zhao Qin, some of their routines. In terms of medals, you could argue Zika, but I think the difficulty and the execution and the moment and the standard of the final, probably the best pommel routine. If you add all of those things up that I've seen, and I only think you can perform that level of routine maybe once in your life. And what I mean by that is that the preparation he must have done to get to that level, to be able to do that under pressure in that moment, must have been a mind-boggling amount of work, not just physically, but also psychologically and mentally, to be in the right mindset.
It's like you said, to have that, to do that routine in the Olympic final to become Olympic champion, like that, it doesn't all just come together like that. That's like, it's amazing. Like, that's just happened. Usually, like, I don't know, maybe you'll have a tiny little, or still go clean, but it doesn't look that good.
Yeah.
Like, it was like, when you're in training, you're trying to make it perfect. Like, just play around with how perfect you can make it. It was like that.
Yeah.
It was when I was watching, I was like, this is incredible. Like, you couldn't fault it. It was crazy.
Skill for skill, I don't think you could do any better. I don't think he could have done any better for a whole routine. Maybe individually, like elements, he could swing slightly higher, maybe.
Yeah, if he's done it in halves or things like that.
Or even like separate elements. But as a whole routine, I just don't think you could do that any better, which is just, it's unbelievable, isn't it? But I had full confidence in him going in. And I think that was, I've followed his YouTube channel and his preparation throughout the whole of this. And I just felt like, this guy's going through. He's going to do it. What I think was interesting for me, and I would love to sit down and chat to him about this, is that I feel like going into a Tokyo, he very much, for me personally, was... I think around 2018 time when he first came onto the scene and maybe beat Max in the Commonwealth Games, it was the time when like peak McGregor, right?
Yeah.
And I know he's a fan of him, and I feel like he was trying to like make gymnastics something that it wasn't, and there were indirect shots for sure at Max that was about execution and style. But you know, like, we as gymnastics fans know what he's trying, who he's talking about.
Yeah.
You don't have to say the person directly. And I just think that piled too much pressure on him going into that games. I was like, gymnastics is different because you're not going to fight against somebody else. You've got to walk up there and do your routine. So you're going to put that pressure on yourself.
Yeah.
And Max isn't the type of person that reacts to that stuff.
Yeah.
He isn't. That's not the guy. No, you're not going to rattle him. Because... you know, you've known Max for a long time. For me, like, he's one of those quietly competitive people.
Yeah, he is, yeah.
He isn't going to say it to you, but he wants to beat you as much. You can be a loud competitive person, right?
Yeah.
But he wants to beat you as much as you do. And if you wind him up, he's going to want to beat you. Like, don't do that, because it's just, do you know what I mean? You're like, you're giving him motivation to go into the gym and train every day. And so that was my thoughts in the build up to Tokyo, and then obviously Max got the better of Rhys in Tokyo. But at that time, there was other people that were there. It wasn't such a clear cut. But then you'd say this cycle, Rhys has probably come out on top, right, and goes in. Definitely went in as a favourite, I think. Yeah,
he's won everything on the lead up to this.
You just can't then count out a current Olympic champion, can you, with everything that he'd done? And it kind of, you know, as his friend and former roommate and teammate, I was sold on the story. I was like, same. I wanted to do it, man. Like, imagine this, like, to end this way. So I was bought in. But I think just, in the end, not that it was a bridge too far, but I think, like, I imagine if you sat down and you spoke to Max, like, once the dust has settled, firstly, I hope he's incredibly proud of everything he's done. But secondly, I think he'd probably go, it's amazing what I did considering the preparation and the age that I'm at and how long I carried on. And
Well, no, you said because he like retired, didn't he? Yeah. And then came back and made an Olympic final.
Which this guy, we got so close, like very close.
Yeah.
And at least he, like, if you're gonna go out doing the full difficulty, the full routine, like going for it. You won't have any regrets.
No, none at all.
Like no regrets at all. And I hope now that, you know, he's tried this once before with the retirement. He's come back. I hope now he kind of like feels at peace and like ready to move on and the next chapter, but like he's done so much for the sport. So it's like 6 Olympic medals.
It's ridiculous,
isn't it?
Like I say, when we've come from an era growing up when you're lucky to get 2 guys to just go to the Olympics,
just to get to the Olympic Games, to get those medals. Like,
and now we're expected to win 4 or 5 medals every single time.
Yeah, it's unbelievable, isn't it, mate? Like, incredible. And how many, the countless kids that have got into gymnastics because of watching them at the Olympic Games, they're the things that you can't really measure.
No.
It's not a tangible thing, but he'll only realise years down the line, and other people will realise years down the line when maybe we don't have gymnasts that win 6 medals again. Do you know what I mean? Wow, that was good. Like, what did he do? That was special. Let's look at the rings then, mate. So, in terms of rings, the Chinese just dominate, don't they?
Yeah. You can't touch them. Like, even Petronas. Petronas is amazing, but he's nowhere near that level, I don't think. Like, the difficulty plus the execution, everything's just level and looks so easy. And I was really surprised with what's the P-bar's name?
Zou.
P-bar, yeah. How strong on rings he is and how perfect it is as well. Didn't expect that at all. I
mean, he had a real shot, didn't he, of winning, really?
Yeah.
Like, it came down to dismounts.
Yeah.
You know, it came down to dismounts in the end. But I think the direct comparison between their strength positions is...
Yeah. It
magnifies everybody else's mistakes, doesn't it?
Yeah. Like, because most people say, like, a Homna to cross or something, you are just slightly over and then you settle into a cross, and they're coming in perfect.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing, and then like you say, it magnifies everyone else. Like,
and really, the scores are not reflective of the gap between them, are they? Like, 1 or 2 tenths between those routines is bonkers.
I think it's 5.
Yeah,
5
there's
tenths.
no way.
Yeah.
Like that's just, it isn't reflective of that. what did you think about the bronze medal, mate? Because I kind of thought they might give it to Samir, with it being in France, and it was a great routine. He stuck the dismount. I know Petronas stuck his dismount, but I always feel with Petronas' dismount, and look, this is, you can tell because his coach always stands in there.
Yeah.
I mean, like, it's wild. He throws his head, it's half tuck, half straight, and he's just somehow stuck it.
Because I'm pretty sure he's tried changing up his dismount a few times as well.
I mean, he's stuck with that double-double for a long time, but it isn't, it's not, you don't feel confident in that technique, do you? Like, he's throwing his head, so he's not seeing the floor. But he's obviously stuck it and put it on his feet. I did wonder whether they'd give it, I think it was his D score, but I did think it was a very clean routine in his position. And that guy, like, Junior Euros 2008, he's competing there, right? Like,
I thought it was Samir's. Everyone knows you get a little bit of leniency when it's in your home country as well. Yeah. So I thought, being in his home country, stuck his dismount. It's not like his routine's bad. It's good. It's up there. Yeah. Like, I thought he'd done it. And he must be pretty good with that.
Yeah, I'm sure he's good, mate. To still be doing it at that level, at that age, after the horrific injury. That is the worst injury I've ever seen, that vault injury. Like, that was just horrendous in 2016. Yeah. I had no idea he was still training until, I've said this on one of our episodes, but I was watching TV and he came on a car advert and I was like, and he did like a round-off flick straight back. He wasn't even doing rings. He did like a round-off flick straight back over like a Hyundai. It's called Hyundai now, isn't it? Not Hyundai. They've like properly rebranded their name. And he was doing like a straight back, and I was like, is that Samir? Yeah. And I was like, wow, that's impressive. He's still doing a round off flick. Had no idea that he's going to the Olympic Games. So it's like incredible.
Yeah,
really.
Like you said, I haven't seen him for ages. I thought he'd retired. I don't know, maybe it was because France is holding it, and he's thought, oh, right, home games, I'm coming back. And like you say, he's always been naturally strong, hasn't he, even as a junior? So we thought, all right, I'm back. Rings final, I'll do this. Must be something like that. Like,
yeah.
Awesome.
I think lastly, like, Harry's routine was brilliant, wasn't it?
You know what? It's so clean, isn't it?
So
like,
clean.
His positions and everything.
His style
really
and
nice.
everything is just brilliant. He's built physically for rings and vault, isn't he? Like, floor as well, but I think particularly like rings and vault, that guy is built for those apparatus. Yeah. I feel like he's going to have a very bright future next few years on those two apparatus. Like, he could start winning a lot of medals.
Yeah, that's like what I said earlier about Abliazin. Like, he literally went for rings, vault, and floor for Russia and was winning medals on all three of them. And I think Harry could do that, like, for the next 3 cycles. Yeah,
it's just his positions, again, beautiful. I liked his construction. Pressing out of that backup rise to cross, doesn't even move. He just stays there and he's in that Maltese. You know, for me and you guys that struggled with ring strength. And I literally, you know, I still just can't fathom those guys, how strong they are. Like, it blows my mind. I'm not convinced that, I'm sure the Chinese are probably on some special sauce with just how good they are, because it doesn't. Although the Zou, like, seeing the amount of strapping on his shoulders.
Yeah, I know.
It's not a good advert for the sport, is it?
No.
And I did hear a quote from Bo Heng after the all-round saying that he was basically fucked and the only way he got through it was because he was on so many painkillers. I was like, oh, really? Because the Chinese are quite well known for, like, steroid injections, like cortisone injections, like, into the joint 10 minutes before the final, aren't they? Like, in the past. So, seeing all that tape all over his arms and the ice and him just grimacing, I was like, whoa. Yeah. Like, it just reminds you how the human body's not built to do rings.
No, it's not at all. Like, I've still got shoulder problems from rings.
Mate, my shoulders are in absolute I need surgery on mine, so yeah, that's not fun. I've basically got 3 holes in my shoulder.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which is not fun. And that's why it sits like this. So you can probably see it on the podcast sticking out. But that isn't fun. So I won't be doing any rings anytime soon. But what were your expectations then going into vault, Dan? For me, I felt that was Jake's, like, that was his best chance.
Yeah, like, he's kind of surprised me on floor, but I thought vault, he was there for vault, and it kind of was the other way. It was literally the step out, wasn't it? That's cost
just
him,
that
really.
step. Yeah, just the step. Even it was the step out. I think he stayed in the middle and stepped. Yeah, it was that 1/10 of going out, and almost like a feeling maybe as if you're judging. He's gone out at the. Do you know what I mean? It kind of does. Can we give him that score? He's gone out the lines. Like, it's quite clear for people watching that aren't gymnastics fans that he stepped outside the lines. There's like a bit like Simone on floor. It's kind of like he was just unlucky, wasn't he? Really.
Yeah, it was. It was like you say, that stepping out. If he just stepped forward, he probably does it.
Very difficult to control that torque of twisting kind of... You kind of have to go round the side to do that 3.5, don't you, to get it in. It's really hard to control that.
And there's no way of kind of opening out like a triple twist as well. You can open out, see the floor. He's kind of spinning around because there's the only way to fit it in.
The floor's kind of hitting you, isn't it, rather than you hitting the floor. And then I thought his Dragulescu was improved. Pointed toes in the air, legs quite close. I think the standard of vaulting was just amazing, wasn't it?
It's
so
crazy.
I think, just unlucky, really. And then a lot of the guys, particularly in the first half of the final, especially, I don't know why they've decided that you can do a handspring 2.5 and a Dragulescu.
Yeah,
it's the same.
Because you used to have to do different.
It's the same family. I don't know why. Do you know what I mean? Like, of course, if you're going to get someone that's very good at blocking and doing a handspring, they're just going to do a handspring 2.5, and they're two like half turns back on yourself, see the floor, you can land it. So if you're someone going up and doing a double pike souk against that, you've already lost.
Also, the other guy, he did a Yuchenko double pike and a souk double pike as well. I don't think that should be allowed.
No. So for me, I don't get that rule, why they've changed it. I've always been confused by it in this cycle. But it does mean that if you've got a Dragulescu and a handspring 2.5, you have a real shot at sticking both of them.
Yeah.
Like, if we're doing a landing competition on trampoline, what would you rather do? Like a double front half turn or a double front forwards?
Yeah, half turn, because
you can see it the whole time, right?
And your chest can kind of be down.
And a straight front 2.5, you can see the floor when you come in and land. So, there were some great double Dragulescus and 2.5s, and I think all of those vaults stayed on their feet, right? So, that was me, like, with Jake, and then Yulo, like, contrary to the floor, and there's no denying it. I mean, that pipe drag is just outrageous.
Yeah.
And he kept his legs straight.
Yeah, exactly. It was perfect, wasn't it? But I thought his triple twist...
Did you think it was not quite round?
Yeah,
I didn't have
he
that.
landed,
I didn't think that.
2 3/4, and his legs were a bit bent.
The bent leg, yeah. So on slow-mo, definitely a 3/10 on the bent leg.
Yeah.
Which you could then argue, if he's bending his leg, he's got to pike down to get it down to his feet.
Yeah.
But I felt personally that it was round enough. And I think you have to, on vault, it's so dangerous doing those vaults. There has to almost be a bit of credit given to the guys that are taking that risk to do a 6.
Yeah.
There was only 2, only Jake and him.
Yeah.
And for me, if Jake lands that well, he's taking the gold.
Yeah,
I think on balance, for me personally, I didn't have any problems with him being the gold medalist. And then Davtian...
his vaults are the same every single year, aren't they?
It's just, he's going to consistently hit those vaults.
Yeah.
He was tight. I wasn't sure if they'd give it him, if I was honest.
No, same.
Normally he sticks at least one of them. He didn't. And he comes quite close to the vault. But I think, like, Harry, first ever British Olympic vault medal, what an incredible achievement.
Yeah. His handspring 2.5 is amazing as well. There's no deductions. Usually there's a leg split on the vault or something like that.
And the thing, I think, for him is that he's gone and won an Olympic medal, which is a massive achievement. He's only the 8th after Jake British man alive that's got an Olympic medal in gymnastics, which is pretty amazing. So what an achievement in itself. But he's got room to go. I've seen videos of him doing a pike Dragulescu. I've seen videos of him doing a handspring triple twist.
Yeah.
This is somebody that could dominate vault for a long time.
Yeah, I think he's only just really started. I think he's not really got a ceiling. He can up his difficulty. Like Rings as well, like you say, he's only young. He's only going to get stronger as he goes into his mid-20s. So
and then he's got a floor that hopefully will get more and more consistent.
Yeah. He's so young and he's so talented and so good. I can see him going into the next Olympic cycle, ready for the next Olympics. He'll have that same kind of execution, but with, I don't know, another 3-4 attempts on start value.
You could almost build a team around him.
Yeah.
And for the first time in, 20 years, you'd have a specialist that's not just a one-piece specialist that you're almost building a team around.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that helps the team a lot.
Because teams have been built around Lewis and Max for so long that having somebody that's a three-piece specialist almost probably makes it, makes building that team a little bit easier.
Yeah.
And it's probably quite helpful.
100%. And I think with a perfect match would be with Zou. I think Joe's still got another cycle all round in him personally. But then if he wants to carry on as well after that, say his body's getting sore, he could kind of do the other 3 to...
Yeah, the only thing I would worry about with Zou is just the surgeries he had in a short space of time in 1 year, and then knowing what it takes to get back from that. For him to have got back, done it, and competed so well.
Yeah.
How much is your body going to be able to handle that for another 4 years? I'm not sure, but it might be a situation where he can take his foot off the gas for the first 2 years and then pick back up again, depending on what the level of... the quality of the guys underneath him coming through, right?
Because his high bar, P bars are amazing, and his pommel's decent as well. It's the perfect 3 to go with Harry's.
Yeah, a great match. You're right, mate. That's a really good point. And I can't really think of anybody else that's similar.
That level. Like you say, Joe could final on high bar and P bars.
Exactly, yeah. So I think you're right there, mate. I think that would be a perfect match. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out. And obviously, after Olympic Games, you get a big shake-up of everything. Yeah. Staff, sports science personnel, athletes, coaches, people moving around, retiring, what's going on. So it will take a while for the dust to settle there and see what everybody's doing. And I'm sure those guys that are a little bit more experienced will probably take the foot off the gas for a while and maybe rest and not do some of the majors next year and slowly get back into it as an individual year, not a team year. And maybe look to that Commonwealth Games year as the big year to get back, which is what a lot of people do. Obviously very experienced now. Joe, and also Jake as well, pretty experienced now, considering he's only 22, quite a lot of experience already. This cycle's pretty much done everything. Let's talk about P-bars then, mate. I mean, Zou's P-bar routine is the most dominant routine in the whole of gymnastics. When you look at the scores across the men and the women, in any apparatus, he's won by the biggest margin. He's won by 7/10.
Yeah. And to be honest, I don't even know where they get them deductions from.
No, it's mad, isn't it?
There's like 3 or 4 temps maximum, like maybe less. I don't see where they get this. It's like they're under pressure just to find things. Yeah. I don't know.
It's incredible. It's probably the most piece. It's the piece of gymnastics that's the most perfect in gymnastics.
Yeah.
And likewise, similarly to like saying Rhys, it's the best Pommel routine I've ever seen. I think that's the most perfect piece of gymnastics I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And his routine in the final was outrageous, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's incredible. Like when he first came on the scene, I remember seeing videos and I was like, "What? Who's this guy? Like this routine's ridiculous." And it's the consistency with it as well. I know he fell in a Worlds once, I think.
Yeah.
But apart from that, I don't think I've ever seen him fall.
Yeah, he just hits.
Yeah, every single time with that difficulty.
Yeah, with that, and being a great P-bar worker, how hard it is to hit that difficulty and be consistent on parallel bars. It's tough, isn't it?
I don't know how he gets his grip good every time.
Yeah, that grip, that must just be outrageous numbers. Just outrageous numbers. And then confidence in his grip and stuff. A self-confidence that must be just...
Yeah, like you say, because he does that under somebody that's like perfect catches in handstand.
He just hops.
Like
you could run your hand underneath his hands when he hops out of the undersummy, couldn't you?
I remember my undersummy, the first one, it's testing if the grip's good. Shaking.
Yeah, you're just waiting to see. It's like, am I going to be okay? If not, I'm holding on for dear life.
Yeah.
Just trying to stay on the P-bars. A lot of misses from the big athletes, right? Like, how did you feel about... Obviously, I had a chat with Dan Purvis about this. I was happy that Oleg didn't win a medal because just for me, and I had a little look last night. I came across a video actually that was this American guy that used to help American athletes cheat.
Yeah, okay.
Around the year 2000, he now works for the World Anti-Doping Agency. It was a great 26... It was like a 20-minute video. It's got like 1.6 million views. Just randomly, halfway through, there's Uzlot at Lilleshall training. There's just like a clip when he's talking about like athletes, why athletes would cheat, and he thinks like most athletes are cheating. And there's a clip of this guy. It's blurred our faces out, but you see Rhys Beckford on P-bars and Max in the background. I'm like, that's so random. And it's got like 1.6 million views. Probably not why you want to go viral, right?
No,
I sent it to Rhys. I was like, Rhys, and I sent him the timestamp, but I got it wrong. He was like, I can't see anything. What is it? And I was like, oh, watch it. Because it was the weirdest thing. It's just us at Lilleshall training, insinuating that we're all cheating.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think for me, I was just happy for the sport that he didn't win a medal because, like I said, I looked into meldonium and it's a drug for heart conditions that helps you recover. Yeah. Increases...
Is it like oxygen or something?
Yeah, it increases your blood flow.
That was the first thing I had done was like search what it is.
Yeah, what it is and what it does. That's what you do, don't you? Yeah. Like when you see someone's tested and then obviously he's come out and claimed his innocence and the ban that he had was 4 years, gets reduced to 2 years.
And it was during COVID.
Because he's argued and he didn't really end up missing anything. And then what I don't understand is why you don't get stripped of any medals.
Yeah.
Why are you not
exactly,
getting any medal? Because, I had Dan Purvis on the podcast on Friday, and Dan Purvis got third at the Europeans in 2015 all around. But Oleg was in front of him. So I started trying to think of how many guys have missed out on medals because that guy's in front of him.
And he did every comp going as well.
Every comp in the world. I mean, you know why he did every comp in the world now, don't you? Not why he was able to do it. But yeah, for me, I was glad that he didn't. Then, look, there's no arguing his gymnastics is beautiful, right? And you can take all the drugs in the world, you still have to be able to do that level of gymnastics.
Yeah.
And, I'm sure he wasn't, I don't know, but I imagine he wasn't taking the drugs when he was 10 years old. So that's a lot of hard work.
It's still tainted though, isn't it?
But it's tainted, yeah, of course it is. Yeah. And look, he can say he was innocent. We all know that he's chatting shit. So I think I was glad, but equally at the same time, I was glad that Covington got something out of the games because he was so close in the all-around. He went in as a big favourite, and I do love his gymnastics. And I like the fact that he's just a completely different build to most gymnasts. Yeah. He's a big guy, he's massive, strong, right? He's wide, but he does this beautiful technical gymnastics. Seems pretty calm, respectful, very level-headed. Did a great P-bar routine, 15.5. Yeah. Any other, if Zou wasn't there, he'd win, right?
So how old is he? He's young as well, isn't he?
Not very old, mate. I reckon, maybe, I could be wrong here, maybe 21, maybe.
So he's got a long
stint left in him. I was glad that he won, obviously. The Oka Shinosuke, the Japanese, that's now won lots of medals at this championships. Beautiful technical routine, right?
Yeah.
Like, that Japanese, very reminiscent of kind of like Tomita's style gymnastics, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's obviously a bit shorter. He's almost like, build-wise, how small he is, like Yuya Komoto, remember him?
Yeah.
Like that, but a bit more stylish and well-refined. Dowser missed.
That, I did not expect that.
He's normally well consistent, isn't he? I was expecting him to go
I've never
right
seen
through.
him fail. Yeah. I don't think. Or for a long time.
Yeah.
And it was when he hit his foot on the Healy, or was it Healy or was it McCurts or something?
Yeah. Smacked him loud on it.
But then after that was it. He struggled through the whole routine. It was like it just shook. It killed his.
I think he knew after that it probably wasn't. P-bars is one of those routines where the you can get a high execution score, can't you? I think on P-bars, if you're not stepping, you're not doing anything, you've got a chance of getting close to a 9. Yeah. Whereas on like high bar or floor, ain't gonna happen.
No. Yeah.
But the quality started to. You could kind of see the fatigue, and then high bar just. I don't know what on earth that final was. It was not a good. Was not a good representation of high bar or gymnastics, was it, to finish on like lots of mistakes and falls, and very strange that most of those falls were coming on dismounts and people landing short. And like we said before we went live and we started recording, like, what on earth was that all about? And like Christian said that, didn't he, on the commentary for Discovery Plus? He was like, I really have no explanation for why these guys are doing this. They're doing all the hard work and catching the bar and getting through the routines and going the right way on all their squats and their in bar and catching their handstand, and then just giving it away right at the end. And it was really up for grabs, wasn't it? Not big scores at all. I think the highlight, without a doubt, was the Colombians' routine, right? The 17-year-old, like, what a routine. And I think Christian said, like, that difficulty at that age, like, wow.
I didn't realise he was 17. Like, that is crazy.
17, mate, yeah, unbelievable.
Like, his high bar is ridiculous. Like, it is really good. Like you say, he'll only be 21 at the next Olympics, so he's still young then as well. Like, I think he's going to be around for a long time.
And the Colombians produce these guys, don't they? Like, that Jocelyn Calvo guy.
Yeah,
and then there was a guy around your time. Can you remember his name? The guy that was really good from Colombia, and he would do, like, tip-out, front summy and stuff.
Oh, what was his name?
Or was he I think he was from Colombia, and he'd do like tip out front somersault, World 2009. You know what I mean, don't you?
Yeah,
did exciting, interesting gymnastics, like strange skills that you'd never see. Like they do, and that coach with the crazy like mohawk or the like, he does produce some gymnasts. Colombia, like they've got another young guy that I don't know if you've seen clips of him online doing triple pike on floor and stuff. Have you seen that guy? Triple double straight.
I think
and
I follow him on Instagram or something like that. He's doing mental stuff.
Like crazy stuff. So yeah, they just have something in the water there. I actually, when we went traveling to South America, I came across that gym.
Really?
We were just we wanted to watch a South American football match.
Okay, yeah.
So we were trying to get to the stadium to get tickets, and we just arrived there. And it was in where were we?
I can't remember Medellin we're in. We're
Okay,
trying to go
yeah.
and watch it because apparently that was meant to be amazing.
Yeah.
But you were told to like not take any valuables
Yeah.
and like be very safe.
Yeah.
So we get to this like sports complex and we just come across a gym and I was like, whoa, and I walked in. It's the only gym I came across in the whole of my time in South America.
Yeah.
And it was that gym that like he trains in. He wasn't there training or whatever. So I've seen that setup and I've seen around that area and like the place and how like
Yeah.
tough a way of life that must be. Incredible that they produce those type of athletes from that such a small country that don't have the resources. But wow,
Yeah.
just cool, exciting gymnastics.
It was like Calvo was awesome, wasn't he?
Yeah.
I don't think he ever reached the level that he should have.
Probably
like,
not, no.
In terms
But
of medals
always
and
exciting
things.
to watch.
Yeah.
Just really exciting to watch. So yeah, big future for him. Obviously, Shinosuke, he won the high bar, so that took his tally to 3 gold medals. Japanese high, but they are the best on high bar, I think.
Yeah.
That's the one apparatus where they are the best. They have that long-standing history. It's technically just beautiful
Yeah, it's
gymnastics.
just really nice, isn't it? Although I thought Bo Heng's high bar's been pretty good, and he scores high, doesn't he?
I think traditionally, China, you think Kachevs, Jaegers play it safe.
Yeah.
And now they don't. They do casinos, and I think they've had to do that to compete. And I would say with Bo Heng, there are times where, when I think back to Yang Wei in Beijing,
Yeah.
incredible difficulty.
Just messy.
The style,
Yeah.
it's not for me. Compare it to Tomita.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then now I do watch Chinese gymnastics, and I now do go, oh, it's very beautiful.
Yeah.
And you then match
Yeah.
that difficulty and that beauty.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
But there is a look to when you see a Japanese gymnast do a P-bar or a high bar routine, you wouldn't need to see where they're from or their face, and you could go, they're Japanese.
Yeah. It's that. It just flows so nice, doesn't it? It looks comfortable. Nothing looks like they're using strength or anything like that. Like you say, really tidy. Like they do Coleman's casinos, their legs are glued together, things like that. It's perfect gymnastics, really, isn't it?
It is me, yeah, it is me. I did have a message from one of my friends in a group chat that we've got that said, I miss Ochimura.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I did kind of feel like, I kind
Yeah.
of do. And I think for me, we debated on one of the episodes we did earlier in the year, who's the greatest between Hashimoto and Ochimura. It's pretty clear now, I think, definitely. And as time goes on, I think we'll look back and go, wow,
Yeah.
he really was special.
I think Hashimoto reminds me more of Tomita.
Yeah.
Like, he not going to be as dominant as Uchimura was. He's going to be good. He's going to be up there. He's going to be challenging for that gold every time. But it's not.
Yeah.
It's not.
It was just special, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was just a once-in-a-generation athlete.
Yeah.
Similar to Simone.
Yeah.
Similar to Simone.
Similar to Simone. Similar to Bolt. Similar to Phelps. Like, is
Yeah.
that kind of.
Yeah.
You expect him to win. You're fighting for second.
Yeah. I think he appeared on it was a quite well-respected top 100 athletes of all time, and he appeared on it, which is rare
really?
for a gymnast to appear on it, like an American publication, which was pretty cool. I saw that going into the games. Just to finish off then, Dan, like, what are your takeaways for the British team and the future going forward for the next 4 years? Obviously, they come away, I think the medal target was 4, if I'm right. They've got 3. One of them, a special mention to Bryony Page.
Yeah.
Olympic gold medal on trampoline, and 3 games in a row. She's a legend, isn't she? Like, she just holds
I was
it
buzzing
together.
for her as well. Like you say, and she's got better, like bronze, silver, gold.
Yeah, wow, it's just so
you can't
cool,
ask
isn't
for
it?
any
Yeah.
better than that, can you?
And it seems like she just takes it in her stride, doesn't take herself too seriously, doesn't take it too seriously.
No.
She talks about wanting to join Cirque du Soleil now.
Yeah,
Straight
yeah.
away. So, yeah, really cool. I'm sure she's inspired so many kids to want to get a trampoline in their garden.
Oh, 100%, yeah.
This summer. And trampoline is such a cool sport. And it's just great that we're brilliant at it. Do you know what I mean?
know, yeah.
And I think that's obviously translated her success, because we were 4th in the men's event, which we're
Yeah.
normally nowhere
It's-
near, I
yeah,
think, in the
exactly,
men's
yeah.
event. So getting really close. And then in terms of like 2 bronze medals, I think when we look at the stats of the medals won in the last games since Beijing, we got 1 in Beijing, London 4, 6 plus 1 more with trampoline in Rio.
Yeah.
Tokyo was down at 3, I believe. I could have been 4. Did Jessica Gadarova get a medal on the floor at the Olympic Games? I'm not sure, but definitely 3, potentially 4. So this game's free, and 2 from artistic, 1 from trampoline. How do you feel the people at the top are going to feel about that? Because we performed incredibly well, didn't we? It's not like, I think the gymnasts performed outside of their skin.
Yeah.
And did better than I expected. Men's team, especially women's team, how close were they to a medal?
No, exactly.
With the injuries that they had. So it's not far away. We've got Joe finishing 5th and Jake in 7th.
Yeah. I think if you look at it kind of logically, another day, we get 4 gold medals, 3 gold medals.
It's just, you zig when you should have zagged. It's just kind of the way it went.
Yeah.
I wonder how that will affect funding moving forward, whether there's a change. I don't know whether that was decided before the games.
Yeah.
Wonder whether there's less funding or not. I think the great thing is going into the next cycle that we've got a junior team that are now the junior European champions again, and I believe half of that team will be seniors from next year.
Yeah.
So that's great.
Yeah.
So that bodes well for the future and juniors coming through. I think it's great that we now have 2 Olympic medalists in Jake Jarman and Harry Hepworth that are still competing and still have a lot of life left in them in the sport, because there are kids now that are being inspired by this Olympics, that are doing gymnastics at a high level, that weren't born when I won my medal or when you were competing. So for them, they're like, who's Sam Oldham, who's Daniel Keatings? So to have Jake Jarman and Harry Hepworth, they're like, these guys are idols and that's very important, I think.
So I went to Huntingdon put on like a event for the team final. They had big tellies in the gym. They got food vans in, things like that. And I went in, had a little play on high bar and whatnot, and then watched it after. And I'm going to say only quarter of the people knew who I was there. Like everyone else, it's kind of Max. Then maybe Max is getting a little bit old now as well.
Yeah.
Like obviously he's still around, but then it's like Niall down to then like Jake, Harry, Luke. They're the guys now that people are going to be looking up to and getting into the sport.
Yeah.
So, but yeah.
Just really important, really great that they've got someone, a new, young, someone that's going to be in the sport for the next 4 years, that's got a medal that they can look up to and go, right, that guy's still doing it. He's still, I think that's big. It's great that, we've had the success we've had in our career, like our generation, but the message hits home more when it's like current and they can see those guys on TV. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think so as well. And like you say, if I don't know, going into Huntingdon, and you see Jake over there on the floor doing some crazy things, it's going to inspire you. Having them people still competing, like I think they've still got another 2 Olympics in them, at least. Yeah. Like gymnasts seem to be getting older now as well. I was speaking to someone about this the other day. So we obviously grew up with rock solid floors and things like that. Like if we had softer floors from when we were younger, would we've had less injuries and potentially like prolonged our life in gymnastics and things like that. So hopefully that does help with everybody.
And you see that in every sport across the board, don't you? You see football players playing into their 30s, late 30s. Look at Pepe, Ronaldo. Like you see that across every sport, right? Tennis players, like it's just still going. Yeah. So I think that's just a natural progression over time. One thing I wanted to talk about at the end, Dan, before we finish, because it's become a bit of a topic the last couple of days. Do you think Olympians should be paid?
Yes.
For medals? Do you think there should be a medal bonus?
Yes.
You do? Yeah.
100%.
I agree, mate. I completely agree. But it's been a bit of a talking point because obviously you've got other countries that do different things. So you've got some countries that are offering like 5 cows, a house, and a
I know,
and all sorts of stuff. And then you've got countries offering a lot of money. You've got Russia that offer cars and
so for us, like an Olympic medal gets funding for the sport for the next cycle, doesn't it? I don't know what the figures are. Say it's like 10 million or something like that. So I think you should be rewarded for that. Like getting a medal, it's the pinnacle of your sport, isn't it? I think you should get a nice little bonus, to be honest.
Yeah, I think it's the biggest scam in sport that you've got all of these people providing all this entertainment for 2 weeks. It's the most watched thing ever. Yeah. Right? That you're ever going to get. The IOC are making billions of pounds in advertising revenue. Yeah. Not a penny goes to the people that are putting the sport on. So I think that they should get paid, should have bonuses. Look, your career is short. Yeah. So you might earn a lot in the space of 3 years, spread that out across the whole of your lifetime. doesn't look like much.
No, yeah.
And so for me, I think athletes should get bonuses. And maybe that will happen now that the conversation is coming up.
Yeah.
You know, it's starting to happen in college sport in America, right? They never used to get paid. They're now getting paid.
Yeah, exactly.
So they now have the ability to earn money. And look, you do have funding, so those results in the long run do earn you money moving forwards.
Yeah.
But as a cash bonus, you know, we had an experience early in our career where we were offered incentives. Yeah. And I always argued it worked, right?
Yeah, 100% it works.
100% that works, right? Like, so for me, yeah, that's huge. I think that is definitely something that should be looked at, and I'm sure will, because like I think people find it criminal. Oh, these guys don't get paid to win an Olympic medal. Oh, that's crazy. Like,
like if you look at tennis, for example, what they get for winning a Grand Slam or something like that, I feel like even a World Championships, you should get like some sort of prize money, like for winning. But then an Olympics, obviously being the best, there definitely should be something that you get, even if it's something small, but it's like it's like rewarded
recognition, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it makes you feel valued. You obviously had an experience after the Commonwealth Games where you guys got paid, right, for 2014.
Yes.
Yeah. And what was that?
So for a gold, I think it was 10,000.
10 grand.
Yeah.
And if I'm right, that was paid upon when you retire, right?
Yeah. So they kept it, and it was used for their idea was when you retired, it was used as a transition, which I think is great.
What a brilliant idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, what a great idea that was. Like, amazing. Yeah, and it'd be great if, we can see other federations adopt that into the future. But
like I say, even if they put it into a savings for you, for when you retire.
Just something. The fact that athletes don't have a pension blows my mind.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's mental.
You should be having something put into a pension for you. From a young age,
because you're putting your body through
you're putting it on the
most
line,
amount of
right?
stress. Yeah, like you say, you can have a career-ending injury like that, one bad day in the gym, and you've got nothing to fall back on. That's it. It's all losses cut, and that can affect how you work in the future as well. So I really do feel like that you need to have something there, like you say, like a pension or something that will help you after the sport.
Yeah, I completely agree, mate. Are there any things that have stuck out from you from any other sports that you've watched? Any moments? I couldn't believe in the shooting how she actually shot the
Amber.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was raging with that.
How can they not go back? Clearly, she won.
So did the commentators say they used to have like a VAR?
Yeah, they don't have
system.
like any video footage.
They just go to the second guy who didn't see it as well.
But like we can all see it on TV.
I know, I still had a little bit of smoke.
That was so bonkers for me, and she took that like a champ.
I would be raging.
So I think that for me, that stood out in the last few days. And then I've just enjoyed watching I've enjoyed watching the swimming. The athletics.
The athletics,
Frank told me to watch Sprint on Netflix, the documentary. He was like, it's great. And so I've been really enjoying watching the sprinting.
Yeah.
Because I kind of know some of the characters and stuff.
I love the sprinting
wacky sport,
anyway.
Innit? Like, imagine training for 10 seconds. It's just
mad,
innit? So yeah, I've loved the Olympic Games. It's been brilliant. There's been lots of controversy, hasn't there? I think that's just a reflection of the world at the moment.
Yeah.
All sorts of things going off. But gymnastics has been great. A brilliant showcase, and I hope that in 4 years' time we're going to be in a position where we can have all of the best teams at the Olympic Games. Because in terms of just the gymnastics, that's missing, isn't it?
Yeah.
They bring something to the table because they have that mixture of style and then the difficulty to compete with Japan and China.
But arguably before they got banned,
they were the best, right? They were the favourites. So
yeah, they had 3 all-rounders that could medal.
How many of them can hold on for another 4 years? I don't know.
Yeah,
but
I've been seeing their Instagrams.
They're training, aren't they? Still doing it,
yeah.
but it must be tough. Like still trying to train, knowing not knowing when you're going to get back. But
There's
hopefully,
no motivation, is there?
Hopefully we get to see that because it is a missing piece of the puzzle that you just want to see. I think it's going to be tough for GB going into LA. America are going to be pushing now, aren't they? A home Olympic Games.
Oh yeah,
they're going to want to upgrade that medal, and they've got a lot of depth at the moment.
Yeah,
so it's going to be tough. And if Russia are back in the mix, it's going to be hard. But I'm excited to watch it. I'm a big fan. I'm like fully invested now. It's great. I love it. I love watching it. So thank you, mate, for coming on today. I've really enjoyed it. I've enjoyed all of the episodes we've done over the Olympic Games. So I hope the people listening have enjoyed it too. But yeah, thank you very much, mate. Appreciate it.
Cheers.